Now, here we are.
All right.
Yes, we are. Now, let's welcome all our guests here at the V Experiment. Thank you very much for being with us. Today, we are going to have a small story. Yes, because it's all about stories and it's all about getting involved with the stories. Uh, with us is going to be Michael Ryer. Am I pronouncing this correct, Michael?
Absolutely right.
This is perfect. This means we are going to talk for a lot of things, but most of all, the one thing that is the driving force after Amigos Internacionales.
Very good.
Michael,
You pronounced that correctly.
yeah, I'm trying to. I just told you before. I'm trying not to learn any other language. I'm good.
Yeah.
Now, tell me, Michael, what
Yes.
is it? We have a custom at this show. I'm not asking a lot of questions, and I'm just letting somebody explain who he is or she, and what somebody wants to talk about. The floor is
Sure.
yours.
Well, thank you. Amigos Internationales, I am actually the president and CEO of an American nonprofit. We are based in Texas, which is right about there on our map. And we are 57 years old. Our nonprofit started
How
in
much? How much?
1960.
Sorry, how old are
57,
you?
57 years old is our nonprofit.
You don't
We,
look so 57.
oh, well, trust me, I am. I'm not as old, but actually, our the founder, Dr. John Lanou, started Amigos in 1967, Amigos Internationales is Spanish. It means international friends. And when we began, we were building mobile medical clinics and mobile dental clinics along the valley, the Rio Grande Valley between Texas and Mexico. We built 11 mobile clinics, dental clinics, and 11 mobile medical clinics to help out those people that were down in the valley that were just destitute and children that needed dental care. And we built them in vans so they could go up and down the coast or the state line between Texas and Mexico. And many of those are still in existence 57 years from, but they're not mobile anymore. They've actually established themselves and they're in buildings in their own place. And it was actually designed to be a 1 year proposition. And so we needed a name and we wanted it to be International Friends and Hispanic so they would understand it, or Spanish. And so we've been going about 1 year at a time for the last 57 years. Now, the interesting thing about that is our founder came and spoke to our church when I was 8 years old. I was a little bitty boy, and I remember today, I remember him speaking to our church and talking about the way they built those clinics. And we just yesterday celebrated his 90th birthday. He is still actively on our board. He is probably our biggest fundraiser and just the life of the party. He actually looks like Santa Claus's baby brother. He's got the white beard. You can go on our website and see him. He tells everybody that he's the guy that keeps the list for Santa Claus. But we did that, and we have been for 57 years. We've been doing things around the globe. When Saddam Hussein chased all the Kurds up into the mountains to freeze to death, we took 12 people up into the mountains and we fed them for 6 months with a mobile kitchen. Dr. John, our founder, was one of the few people that on Iranian soil was actually anointed with rosewood oil by a Muslim imam for doing the work that he was doing. We've been in Sri Lanka cleaning out water wells when the tsunami hit and flooded the wells with salt water. We would pump them out. We've been at New York, Ground Zero, when everybody was charging them $1,000 to clean apartments. We were over there cleaning them out for nothing, just saying, because God loves you, we want to help. And we began doing that. We've been in Russia during the earthquakes, cleaning, helping send food and clothing up into the apartments in downtown Moscow. Most recently, we in the earthquake in Turkey. What people didn't really notice was that Syria was hit very tragically with the same earthquake, but because of the embargo, you couldn't get aid in there. So we had 100,000 blankets that we collected, and we, through our contacts, Dr. John, and we actually went through 5 different religious organization priests, from Greek Orthodox all the way to Southern Baptists in Texas, to move those blankets into Syria because of the embargo. Friends and neighbors of people that we knew, we got them in there, and those people that were freezing to death because there was no food or no water or no electricity, we gave them blankets, and we provided them blankets last year. So that was the most recent thing on the global standpoint. But we've always been looking for where we can be the most benefit. And I've been involved, like I said, since I was 8 years old, 57 years. Dr. John became my friend. He became my mentor. And I've been very honored to have him to call him a friend. And 16 years ago, he asked me if I wanted to be on the board of directors. And so I joined as a board. I was working at a church, and we were a volunteer organization, and I volunteered to work. I began working on a grant that we used with USAID to feed 7.5 million meals every year to those that were starving in Guatemala because of the drought and the feeding. We built a mobile kitchen in Belize. But we've had a 7.5 million meal grant for the last, since 2002, actually. And it's been really great. But recently, in the last 8 years, they asked me to be CEO. Dr. John retired for about the 4th time. And, he would retire and come back and retire and come back. So he retired for the last time, and I'm not going to let him have it back because I'm having too much fun. But we began to look at where we wanted to focus our emphasis, and we found a need in Uganda, especially in northern Uganda, where the refugees from South Sudan are coming down into Uganda. And we began to sponsor children, because in Uganda, education is not free. You have to pay for your education. And if you can't pay for your education, you get sent home. And we found out that many of these young ladies that were, they call them orphan-led family units. They may be 10, 11, and they are the head of the household because their parents have all died. They may have a grandmother that lives down the road that will check up on them and tend to them once or twice a week, but they literally are providing for the family. And these girls and some boys are literally trying to go to school, and when they get sent home, the men in the village will find out, and because these girls are so desperate to get money for food and for education, they will sometimes sell themselves to these men. These men will take them out into the bushes and in the bush and abuse them for a little bit of money. Many times the men will beat them up while they're in the bush after abusing them, take the money, abusing them a second time, and leave them bleeding in the bush. So we decided we wanted to help stop that. So we began sponsoring children, and we still do that to this day. And if you sponsor a child, you can go to sponsorachild.org and go to our website and pick a child. You'll get a thank you video from our children, your child, and say, Kyriakos, thank you for sponsoring me. I'm going to go back to school now, and I'm excited. And then once a quarter, you'll get a video that you can post to YouTube, or we'll post it to YouTube for you, thanking you for your support, telling them what their favorite subject is and how much they like to play football. You'll get a letter at Christmas. They'll send you a birthday. Some of our kids, if I know your birthday, they'll sing happy birthday to you through video, and that'll get posted to your Facebook. But about a year into doing that, I looked at our Ugandan director, which is Patrick Kibwoda. He is actually from Gulu, Uganda. I said, let's sponsor some more kids. And he said, I think we can find a school and buy it for what we're spending for a year on these 16 kids. And I said, no, you can't do that. And he said, yeah, I think we can. And so during COVID, we found a school that was closed. The education department of Uganda was about to close them anyway because they had no windows, no doors. They had mud floors, and the building wasn't even completed. And we found it, and we negotiated the purchase of that building in 15 acres. And the interesting thing for me is that during that negotiation, my mother, who loved Amigos, has been following Amigos since I was 8 years old. Along with it, she knew Dr. John before I did, and she loved what we were doing. But my mother was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and she was in the last few stages of dying from pancreatic cancer when I was negotiating the school. And I would spend the night with her at the hospital as she was in a lot of pain. And I would read the stories of the negotiation and show her the pictures of the school over and over and over again. And she just loved hearing about it and being a part and involved in it. And on the evening that she died, we actually closed on that school the next morning. So she never got to really see that come to fruition. But on the way to the funeral, the board members met and asked if it would be okay to name that school the Ed and Betty Ryer Open Hands Academy, because they love children so much and it's a part of them. So now in Gulu, there is a school. We put $150,000 into it initially and finished the building, put windows and doors, and we finished a second phase. We've got a water well there. We've got solar panels there, so they have electricity. We finished our second phase, and Ed and Betty Ryer Open Hands Academy has 255 children in the middle of the bush, not able to go to school before. They're actually going to school now and getting a solid
255.
great
Sorry, you said
255 kids.
okay.
Yes. And two phases. This is preschool through like seventh grade. The educational system of there's a little different. I compare it to American. It's about actually it's about the fifth grade. We have actually been so successful with that place in Gulu that we called it Mission Point, and that's become one of our main thrusts. While we were creating this, we added a church there. So they've got water, they've got a church, they've got a school. We began doing a community farm. We've got goats and chickens and ducks. We've just imported into our goat farm about 7 what we call South African boer goats. They're meat goats. I have a 3-month-old male goat that's as large as every native goat in Gulu. And so we're going to begin interbreeding that into the community free of charge. We're not going to charge them, to try to up the herd, make it a better quality goat for all the community. So we're trying to literally create sustainable communities that can last far past me as well. So we've got beans. The kids will work in the garden during their off time because the beans will actually be harvested and we'll feed them for lunch. They'll do beans and corn. So they're working on that. And I am most proud that we just recently got 2 acres of coffee, and I'm a big coffee nut. So we're going to start growing our own coffee beans. So I say, yeah, too. So, and what really began this process, and here's another story. It's all about stories. I got contacted by a man named George, and he said on Facebook, he said, Michael, thank you for what you're doing in Ogle Village. He said it's really a restorative part into that tragic history of that village. And I said, what, tell me more. What do you mean? And we found out that one of the worst warlords in African history, Joseph Kony, many people know him, has been convicted of 2 or 3 war crimes. In the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, he literally, for the Lord's Liberation Army, he would take the boys, he would go into a family, take the boys, make them butcher their parents with a machete. And then the girls he sold in the sex trade. He took over 100,000 children in those 3 decades. And the epicenter of his operation was actually in Ogle Village. So it was the village that we just happened to be placed in that had been devastated by the work that he'd done. Joseph Kony's still alive. He's in the Congo hiding out in women's dress. And so I went about 4 months ago. I went, maybe 6 months now. I went to Portland, Maine to talk to a guy that was working in the Congo. And Joseph Kony had just taken a humanitarian aid convoy and killed all 26 of the convoy workers, burned them alive in their vehicles, and stole all the humanitarian aid food. And so he's still doing terrible, terrible things. But we began to realize that this would be our opportunity to restore this restorative journey into this village's life, and it's worked. The community has come alive. We're giving the children, when you give them education, you give them opportunities for the rest of their life, not only for this generation but for the next generation. And so it was so. And you can stop me if you have any questions. I've got stories forever, but the work there was so. I'm not hearing you. I don't know if you're on mute or not. Yeah, you're on mute, I believe. Still on mute showing. There you are.
Yeah, I don't know what it
Ah,
does. Yeah, we are both. How's it called? Due to technology, I have a lot of notes. I told you that I have a lot of notes here in order to ask you a lot of things. Please go on with your story, and then I'm going to ask you one or two things.
great, great. Well, we began to put this Mission Point initiative together based on what we've done in Ogle Village, and it's become a model and a pattern for us. And there have been villages all across northern Uganda that have come to us and said, "Can you come and do that for us?" Because we have refugees coming in from South Sudan, and they come with just the clothes on their backs. They have no jobs, no way to make a living. The Ugandan government gives them about a 30-foot by 30-foot piece of property for them to make a home and a garden on, and I mean, that's almost as large as most people's living areas, living rooms, much less a whole home. So when they come in, they ask us, they actually give us the land. And I think that's important to us that we actually have a stake in it because we're not going anywhere. And secondly, we're not going to put in donors' money into something that somebody else can take away from us. So we actually have formed a nonprofit, Amigos Internationales of Uganda, and before we drill a water well, they give us the land. So we own the land. We put the water well on it so nobody can ever take it away from us. And we began this 7-step process. The land's given, we start a water well. Once we start a water well, we begin most of the people actually ask for a church. So we start a church and we begin a school. And then we begin the farming operation where we do community farms so everybody can gather around. In Gulu and in Ogle Village, we actually have a tractor there on site that we can actually go to the people's area and help them plow. They're still plowing with oxen. What would take them 2 weeks with an ox, we can actually do in less than a day. And so we're helping them. And they say, why do you do this? We say, because we love you. We want to care. We want to help you do more. And so the next phase after the farming starts is we have begun a life skills class because most of them don't have a job. And so in Powich, we have 36 ladies in a sewing class that's learning to sew. Now it's the old pedal sewing machines because there's no electricity. So they're learning to sew. They go through a sanitary napkins, reusable sanitary napkins class. Most people don't realize it's kind of a difficult subject for two men to be talking about, but
No.
in third world countries, if they do not have those kinds of napkins, the women have to stay home. The girls don't go to school, so the girls actually get behind on their studies. They get behind on their jobs because that's not a part of what they can be a part of. So we've taught them to make those and actually sell those. Now on the second phase, these women are learning to make dresses. I just got a video from one of the ladies. We're putting it together right now that she's so excited. She's learned to measure and she's learned to make dresses and shirts. She can actually go and sell those and begin to make a living. 4 of those ladies that are in this sewing class actually were raped on their way down from South Sudan. They now have babies out of wedlock that they can't control, but they now have a way to make a living. One of the things that our donations cover is that we will do micro loans for these ladies. We will sell them, quote unquote, we'll sell them a sewing machine on a time payment. So they'll have, we want them to have a little skin in the game. So that's partly theirs. I really don't care personally whether we get any money from that sewing machine, but I want them to believe that it's theirs and they're purchasing it. It gives them self-value that they're actually making a living. And they can take that sewing machine, put it out in front of their hut, and people will bring them cloth, and they'll start sewing, and they can actually make a living. So we're not just giving people a fish, we're teaching them to fish. And that's very exciting. So the last phase in this mission point that we have not started yet, and I really, really want to, and we're going to do this first in Ogle Village, is a medical facility. Now, I don't want a hospital. I don't want to be taking people's kidneys out. But we have a sixth grade teacher that lost, no, a second grade teacher that lost her 6-year-old daughter to malaria because she did not have access to a malaria pill that cost $1 a day. Now, when I found that out, it just tore my heart out. And so we began to put those things in place to do that. On our third school in Powich, we found a little girl when I was there that she had some really nasty stuff in the middle of her ear. And I mean, it was like some kind of webbing and blood and wet. So I asked somebody what it was. They did some research, and for 5 years, she's had a canker worm in her ear, and her parents did not have the $54 to take her to the hospital to have all that removed. And so we immediately gave them the money. And she now, I've got a picture on our website of her before and after. She's free and clear. We were afraid she wouldn't be able to hear, but she's got her hearing back, and she's excited. There's no more pain in the ear that she's lived with for 5 years. And she's in our school, going to school, learning how to read and write. And she's healthy now because we were able to provide that issue. Now, our last issue, and then I'll shut up and let you, or I won't shut up, but I'll let you ask some questions, is 4 months ago, I was in Africa, and we started a mission point in a place called Burpong, which is about 2 kilometers from South Sudan. And people gave us 16 acres of land, the villagers did. We drilled a water well, gave them water. There was already a church that we began supporting and helping kind of establish that. And when I visited there, I did not realize that there were 150 preschoolers. Now, this is in the middle of the bush. I mean, there is no houses anywhere. And you can see, I've got a drone shot on our website of just nothing but weeds. And every day, these 150 preschoolers were coming to this church, sitting on dirt floors with illiterate parents that didn't know anything, but they were trying to learn. And the parents were trying to teach them anything they could to help them better themselves. So we immediately issued an initiative to start a school there. And we have a church here in Texas that the children we have a vacation Bible school, which is it's a week-long fun thing for kids to do. And these children collected $450 so that we could buy chairs for these preschoolers. And my last trip 3 weeks ago, we delivered chairs, we delivered blackboards, and we delivered school educational supplies. We are in the process this month of hiring teachers, so we're going to start a school. Now, those people have already called that school Providence preschool and nursery, and they believe it's Providence because they believe God's provided. We provided for them, and we set a goal of $200,000 to put 2 phases of school, which is what we spend in Ogle Village. And 3 weeks we've been at this, and I have the announcement that as of yesterday, we've collected $100,000 halfway there. So we're going to start building that school this month, and actually give those kids a school and a security fence and the solar panels and the things that they need. So we're very excited about that initiative. But that's the most current thing that's going on, and how the people are providing for what we're doing. And I believe, and I've become real passionate, I believe we're creating generational change. I don't want to just change the world that they're in. I want to create generational change, Because if we educate this generation, these kids will expect education for their children and their children and their children. We're going to be sustainable with the sewing classes, and the men are going to begin learning how to fix these water wells the hand pumps, they go bad. So we're training them how to change that. So we're literally giving them life skills in a way to change their life and the life of their children and their children's children. And that's what I'm excited about. So I'll shut up now and take questions. How about that?
No, no. Your stories are very, very, very beautiful because
Thank
we
you.
are talking about. It's like I'm not good in English.
That's okay.
You know this. You know this, and that's why I always say it's you need patience with everything.
Yes.
And we had this conversation before about only the young people can help us change the future. But I have a question.
Okay.
Why? Why? Why are you
Why?
doing? Why? Yes. Why are you doing what you're doing?
It goes
It's a
back to when I was 8 years old, about the same time. Uh, and this is very difficult for me to share, and I haven't shared it very often in public. But I'm about to release a book that talks about it. But I had a wonderful childhood. I grew up. My parents were wonderful. We were not wealthy in any way, shape, form. My dad actually was a fireman, but he would work two or three jobs. But when I was 8 years, just to keep us, in food and clothes and all that. But when I was 8 years old, I had a cousin that came down to visit, and uh, he was mentally challenged, and he literally spent that summer abusing me. And as an 8-year old, he was probably 16, 17, 18, but he had the mind of a 10 or 11-year-old. And I knew the one thing that I could not do is tell my dad, because my dad would probably wouldn't be able to handle it. So I buried that deep down inside of me and didn't tell anybody. And I literally, it began to to taint my entire childhood. And as an adult, I can tell you this: I cannot remember anything much after my ninth, 10th, 10-year old. I lost my childhood. I really do believe that. And as I began getting older, I began to realize that it's a choice. And one of my life verses that I live by is comes out of Deuteronomy. It's an Old Testament verse, but it says that God says, "I lay before you all of heaven and earth to bear witness to this. I lay before you blessings and cursings, life and death." But then He says, "Choose life, so that you and your descendants may live." And so, and the name of my book that I'm coming out with is "The Choice That Can Change the World." I began as an adult. I began to make choices that were good all through high school, all through my elementary, my 9, 10-year-old, 11-year-olds. I chose bad choices because I was pretty messed up in my brain, trying to figure out how to bad things happen to good people. But I
the
began as
problem.
an adult, I began making good choices. And I really do believe if everybody that listens to this podcast, everybody began making good choices. If they chose life instead of death, I think our world would change, radically change. We do things that are just stupid sometimes. I want to go, what were you thinking? Where did you think this was gonna lead? And I've got a wonderful wife. We've been married 41 years, and I think she's the one that's been kind of helping me because through all these phases when we were first married, and she really
She
needs a
sorry,
gold star.
I need to interrupt. She's
Okay.
kind of help. She's kinda.
Well,
She's
yeah,
not
you're
your
right.
rock.
She well, yeah. I developed this is a long story. I developed what I called a gray zone. Not white, not black. White's good, black. But there was this at 8 years old. I began to say if bad things happen and good, I put it in this little gray area. So if I wanted a candy bar and I knew that was wrong to take it. Well, I would put it in that little gray area and go, oh, it's okay because that's gray.
That's
Well,
great.
when I was 21, when I was, and that's another book I've got called The Gray Zone. I'm in the process of thinking through. But I began to realize that at 21, 22 years old, my entire life was gray. I did what I wanted to do, whether it hurt people or it didn't hurt people. I was so self-absorbed.
Yeah.
And when I met my wife and married her, she did not even have a line between black and white. It was either white or it was black. And as we were married, we began to discuss that. And I wasn't planning on getting into all this, but when we began to discuss it, all those memories flooded back. I mean, that was used in my life to realize how far I've gone and to help destroy and erode that gray area into where there is good and there's bad. There's right and there's wrong. And thanks to my wife, she brought me back to zero, and that began my process of making good choices. And I believe if we make choices, and that's why I'm here today, is to begin. I don't want anyone else, whether they're in Uganda or in Texas or in Greece or anywhere, I don't want a child to lose their childhood. I lost my childhood, and I need to help as many people as I can. I always end every time I do a presentation. I have one slide that has the kind of the ink print of a footprint, ink blot, and it says, God tells you how big your foot is, but you determine the size of your footprint. And I want to leave as big a footprint as I can as I go out of this world. I'm 65. I don't have a whole lot of time left, but I want to make my footprint as big as it can be. And I don't want any one of those children that in my school, we've got, when we finish Burpong, we'll have 565 kids in school. Now, we've got a school in Tanzania. We've got 2 schools in Uganda, about to add our 3rd one in Uganda. And we'll have 560 kids. And I don't want any one of them to lose their childhood because of sexual abuse or sexual predators. And that's my goal. That's the why. Because it's a long way to get to where we're at. But that's the why that I do this, is that I want to help people. And I don't want to see another child lose their childhood because of that, because like I did. Does that answer the question?
I'm going to ask you afterwards when we close the podcast another
Sure.
question, but it's going to be private. The thing is, people take a lot of things granted.
Yes.
It's in the Western civilization, as we discussed. It's like in the US, Europe. People think that it's very natural to have water in order to drink it.
Yes.
And you told me, you just told us that you're doing water wells. Why is this? Because they don't have any water?
Well, in Africa, the average African woman will walk 4 miles a day just to get water for their family. Or they'll go to a water source that is shared with pigs and cows. And we've got pictures on our website. The government came to us and asked us to drill a water well because one of their water sources, it's in Lolobu, they shared with the animals. And I've got a video of a woman that was in the hospital with typhoid, Lucy. And she was dying because of typhoid that she got from the water because the animals excremented and into the water, and it's
Yeah.
very, very typical for in fact, one of the videos we did while the women were gathering water, the pigs from upstream walked down into the video that we weren't even planning on that just, they were wallering upstream. And so we are trying to save lives. We're giving them 70 meters deep well boreholes that will have no more disease, never. I mean, it's deep well, it's into the water table, and
Yes, I
they
see.
get water for life. It will be life-saving, life-changing water that many times girls will miss school or be late for school because the first thing they have to do in the morning is they get up and they go 4 miles to the water. They come back, they're tired, they're sore. They miss school because of that, and that's just the chores that they have to do. But by putting these water wells in the villages, they get access to clean, pure water that's close and that doesn't cost them a lot of time and effort. They can actually spend time doing crafts, making money, and doing those things, going to school for the girls, young girls. So that's why we do that, to prevent disease and give them clean water.
Uh, the question now is the second question is, okay, how easy is for people that live in the Western civilization to understand what we are talking about?
Oh, it's not. We either go to the refrigerator and open that little plastic bottle and there's water in it, or we go to the sink and turn the
Exactly.
sink. These guys literally, I mean, these are water holes with trash in them, with pig excrement, and it's just wherever they can get the water from. And we just don't even understand that. We took 4 people on a vision trip with me this 3 weeks ago, and they're from Texas. They're right down the road from us, and they were literally shocked to look at the watering hole that people were getting water from before we drilled our water well. It just does not enter our Western brain to understand how tragic it is. And water is a necessity of life. It's something that
It's basic.
everybody needs, everybody has to, and we take it so for granted. But over up there, it's not. It's not anything. So that's the first thing we do is we drill a water well, so that we give. And honestly, when we drill a water well, 1,200 people a day from that well gets fresh, clean water. 1,200 people a day. Think about that. No longer have to be afraid of typhoid, of diphtheria, of dysentery, which will kill young babies. Dysentery, it's one of the leading causes of death around the world, because of diseased water.
Uh, the thing is that we are not here to so that everybody understands. We don't want to frighten people. We want just them to understand that there are different circumstances about
Yes.
anywhere,
Yes.
about uh, wars, about Africa is very, I would say, I cannot find the word because I told you that my English isn't so good, but it's been left on the side. Although Africa is a very rich country with culture, with everything, but
No,
it's
love the
left on the
African
side.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it just happens to be that we're in Africa. We've been invited to a number of different countries, a number of different places with our Mission Point initiative, and we will get there eventually. But we're going to crawl before we walk, and we're going to make sure that our model is correct, which we have the model in Ogle Village, and it's sustainable, it's reproducible, and then we'll move it from there into the Congo. We've got an invitation into Kenya, into Cameroon, Pakistan, India. We just have those opportunities. We're just waiting for the timing and the funding is what we need.
Yeah. You told me that you were almost halfway there for a school. Is this correct?
Yes. Yes, in Burpong, we have, after 3 weeks of putting this initiative together, honestly, I knew that we needed 200,000 for the school and the security and the solar and the water. And I didn't think, I was maybe doubtful, not sure how far we would get there, but in 3 weeks, we've already collected half of that, $100,000. And so we are going to put together the first phase, which is about 150 kids are going to be in school by January. And they'll be in a building with chairs and blackboards and the ability to learn. And we're excited about that. Yeah.
Mm, I hope you are going to get your goals done. And my question now is, how much does a water well cost in order to be the whole construction and
Sure.
everything?
It's a good. That's a good question. When we're given land donated, we go in and the company that we works with us, they actually will do a seismic study so that we're not just punching holes
Okay.
at random.
Seismic study.
They do a seismic study. We'll get 3 different places that we can drill, and it costs about, depending on difference, around $8,500 US to drill up to 80 meters, and that includes the seismic study, the drilling of the hole, the setting of the casings, the hand pump, which is, we only use Mark 7s, which are top of the line, hand pumps, and all that setting. So when we go out, when we leave that place, or when they walk away, there's actually a pump that people can begin pumping water, and 1,200 people a day get fresh water from that pump.
8,500
Yes,
for one well, so that 1,200 people can drink water
every day.
every day, every time of the day.
Yeah, I mean, there will be a line every time I go. There's always a line. There's always a line of people getting water, 24/7. Well, during the daylight hours, they don't go in the dark, but there's always people at that water well getting water.
You know, Michael, the thing is, we take a lot of things of so much granted that we cannot understand how our life would be without our Samsung or iPhone.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, that we cannot understand how much difference there is between countries and the whole world. And that's what I
Yes,
wanted to discuss with you about, because, okay, uh, you've done so much things in Africa, and I like to learn about this because Greek people. I told you I'm from Greece. We are the, how could I say this? We are the entrance for people coming to Europe through
yes,
Africa, yeah, through Asia and everything. And
sure,
yeah, I've been working with those people. The last 10 years, people have been coming over here from Nigeria, from Kenya, from wherever. And they are actually nice people, kind people. And you just need to embrace them. That's the thing.
absolutely.
Yeah, the problem is politics. I don't want to go there, and I'm not going to go there. But
That's right.
yeah, the thing is politics, and that's why I wanted to talk with you, because I believe I find your work is very, very honorable.
Thank you, thank you. We have a young girl that in our sponsorship program named Brenda. We got some videos of her, but 5 years ago she was on the streets. The orphan-led family was trying to. She was not in school. She'd been kicked out. Was had 4 or 5 brothers and sisters at home, and we had heard about her. And Patrick, our Ugandan director, was trying to find her just to get her in school, because we knew that she needed to be in school. And it took us about 3 weeks, but we found her. He was trying to scrape together some money to get back in school, and we put her in school, and she's been in our program for 5 years now. And the last a year ago when I was there, we were doing the thank you videos, as I always do. I told you about it. And when we stopped the thank you video, she looked at me and she said, "Michael," she said, "can I do something else?" And I said, "Sure." And she said, "I want to video something for my sponsor." And I said, "Okay." So I hit on my phone, I hit video, and I said, "Brenda's going to do another something special." And she said, "I want to quote a poem in French." And I said, "Really?" And she began this education, this poem about education and the importance of education in French. And she is now, we've got her, we actually, at our cost, a little extra cost, more than what the sponsor, we've got her in the best school in Gulu, a private school. She's learning French, and her goal is to be an attorney. And she wants to help children in the Congo, French speaking Congo, get out of sex trafficking and those issues. And you tell me another program anywhere that I know of where 5 years a young girl gets off homeless on the streets, and she's now fast tracked to being a French speaking attorney for children in the Congo to save them from sexual trafficking issues. That's just an amazing story to me, and I love Brenda, and it warms my heart. It really does when I hear those stories and see those
I-
stories.
I'm going to tell you a small a secret. In order to achieve the best outcome, you need the best, how's it called, ingredients
Mm-hmm.
and the best way.
You bet.
You had a jackpot because this is how change is going to be with young children thinking different. And
Yes,
yeah, because in the Western civilization, I'm going to tell this now, um, young people become more stupid every day that passes.
yeah,
But it's another discussion. But not everybody. There's not black white. There's a gray area over there.
yeah.
But if you help people like this girl make a change in the next 20 years, 15 years, it's going to be what you are working for. This is
That's right.
the main point.
My mother always told me that you can count the seeds in an apple, but you can never count the apples in a seed. And what we're trying to do is we've got all these little seeds in Uganda, and we'll never know. We'll never know. When I say generational change, you'll never know the number of people these children will grow up and help. Just this one girl. I've got another sponsored child that our board member has sponsored her for 5 years. She wants to be a nurse. And he went with us 3 weeks ago, and he had promised her this several years ago. But he told her, he said, if you want to be a nurse, and you keep up your grades, I'll bring you to the United States and I'll put you through nursing school if you promise to come back to Uganda and help your people. So we're already have got that guarantee in place, and she's going to graduate and come back to the United States to get a nursing, or we'll put her in nursing school somewhere, and she'll come back and work, hopefully in some of our clinics, is what I'm hoping, as we begin to open clinics around northern Uganda. We've got 25 mission points that we've identified, villagers that want to give us land, and we're waiting for the funding to come through so we can begin the water wells and that process. And so we're already at 8. We've got a few more to go. So it's exciting.
Now, I have two last questions. The first question is, how difficult was it to do what you do?
Oh, it doesn't matter. I mean, it really wasn't as difficult as I thought. I mean, it takes a time. You have to realize when I'm sleeping, they're awake, and when they're awake, I'm sleeping. So there have been many nights where I've not gotten to sleep because I'm dealing with stuff that, dealing with issues there. But I don't need a lot of sleep. But it just takes time and caring and wanting to do it. We've been very fortunate with the people that we have in place in Uganda. They're rock solid. They're superstars, and they're helping us in Gulu. Patrick, Chris is our sponsorship director. Gloria is in charge of our sponsorship relationships. Moses is my driver. We call him the Chuck Norris of Uganda. He's a tough guy, but he's over there,
I've
and we
seen
have a
him.
great time. Yeah, and so it helps to have great people around you. But I have in my office here, I have pictures of all my kids, or most of my kids, on every wall. So when I walk through the hallways, it's easy to not lose hope. I mean, it's easy to see why you come to work every day, because you realize you're absolutely making a difference, and so that's what keeps me going. So I don't. It's not been hard at times, but it doesn't matter if it was or it wasn't. I'm going to continue doing it because it's making such a radical difference. I get tickled. I don't get tickled, but I kind of get frustrated when I hear these big influencers say we want to give internet around the world to everybody, and I'm going to go, my kids would
Let's
just like electricity. I mean,
let's start with
when
the
we
basics.
yeah, when we sponsor a child, one of the things that they get is uniforms, and they get a solar light. Think of it, just a little solar desk lamp. even though they don't have a desk, but they can at least take that solar lamp, charge it, and they can study at night. And so, what does the internet do if they don't have electricity to charge their phones, or if they,
Yeah, celebrities
clean water?
don't
If they're in the
know.
hospital with diphtheria, what does it matter if they have internet? You know?
They don't know. People are like, how's it called? Uh, uh, if you repeat what others say, how's it called in the US?
You're quoting them.
Yeah, quote
You're
nip.
quoting them.
Even if not, your parrots.
Yeah.
You know the parrots that says whatever it hears. It's
Yeah.
like celebrity people uh, just repeat what they believe that they heard. They won't be heard and everything. It's
Absolutely.
it's another discussion.
Yeah.
Uh, Michael, I want to ask you just one question because we have a very, very specific way about this show.
For sure.
I had psychologist last time on the show, and the guest before leaves a question for the guest that is to come. This means he had a question for you, and he said,
Okay.
um, "How is it easy for you to communicate in your personal, family, and business life?"
How easy is it to communicate with my family and my business life?
Yeah,
That's
family.
pretty. That's
It's actually uh, communication is very difficult. You know
sure.
that.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Yes.
about words. It's about what people understand and the messages and everything. And he wanted to ask about how easy you can communicate with your family, friends. Uh, it's actually family,
That's
social
that's
life,
easy.
and your business.
That's easy. And it goes back to the story that I told you about my life, the choice that changes the world. One aspect is you have to be transparent. I am what I am. You ask me anything, I'm going to tell you. It may hurt your feelings or it may hurt my feelings, but I'm going to be open and honest. And if the people around you know that you're going to shoot straight with them, that you're not going to be dishonest. I think most of our communication issues is when you begin to not be honest with your spouse, or you keep secret, or your family, they can't trust you. My life's pretty much an open book, and so if they ask me something, I'm going to tell them. Even my sister, sometimes it doesn't mean that we like what we say, but we're going to say what we mean. And so the communication is there because they trust. It's a word of trust. And I think most of our communication, even with our politics, which we're not going to talk about, remember, uh, but it boils down to we don't trust. If my family can't trust me to be honest, to say the truth, to speak in riddles, if they can't trust me to be honest with them, then we're not going to ever communicate. But if they know that I'm going to come from number one, a spirit of truth and a spirit of love, I'm going to always love them no matter what they do or what they say. I'm going to love them and I'm going to speak to them as if I would, and they can take what I say as gospel truth. And so communication with friends and family, it cuts through all the stuff, I guess is the best way to put that. Yeah,
Yeah.
but make those choices to not do evil, not do bad, to do good. And here's the key: your descendants will live, you will live, and your descendants will live. So I'm not making that choice for me. I'm making my choice for my kids and my kids' kids, because my grandkids are this most special thing in the world to me. And
As
so
it should be. As it
communication is
should
not
be.
difficult. Yeah, communication is not difficult because you operate out of that spirit of love and truth, and that comes, the rest of it comes easy. Does that answer your question?
It is a question that you need to answer. It's not about me.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell
Yeah.
you, I'm going to tell you my opinion when we are off air. And I see you have still coffee over there. That's a very good thing.
I do. I have a little bit. I've not been drinking it very fast. So,
Now, my question is, what would you like to ask the next guest on this podcast? Whatever you want. Yeah, because
wow.
I didn't tell you this, I'm going to
Sure.
say, yeah, I'm going to say now, I'm going to stall and I'm going to say everybody is beautiful, everybody is needs to be loved.
Oh,
You,
I've got the question.
you
It's what
got
I
the
ask
question.
everybody.
Please,
What are you doing in your world today to make the world a better place? The world, not your world, but the world.
the word. Okay.
Yeah. Because we have a global response to change our world.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, that goes back to that. What are you doing to make your footprint bigger? What are you doing to change the world around you? And not just locally. I mean, we can do a lot of things that are local. I have a lot of people that in my hometown that kind of they kind of fuss at me because I'm not doing a lot in my local community. Although I'm active in the community, I'm on the Rotary and those sort of things, or was. Uh, but they're going, you're doing a lot of stuff in Africa and Guatemala, but you're not doing anything really locally for us. And I
Ego,
said, well,
ego. I'm going to
yeah,
answer. I'm going to answer now. Sorry,
no, go ahead.
it's the ego speaking because
Yeah,
if somebody needs water and if we are talking about politics, I'm going to the water because water is the fundamental thing that somebody needs in order to survive.
absolutely.
This is my opinion. I don't know about your colleagues over there, but they should think uh, we have bigger problems that are our own because we are in the Western civilization. This means now I have one camera looking at me. I have one tablet, two mobile phones, and I cannot understand. Actually, I do. Uh, how it feels to walk like 4 miles in order to get water. Or I was thinking before, uh, because I'm working in hospitality. I told this before.
Sure.
I was thinking about this. When I was 8 years old, I was in Thassos, on Thassos. Thassos is an island in Greece.
Uh-huh.
And we need to go there in order to get the olives, to bring
Oh,
them to the factory to get olive oil. And we
mm,
didn't have electricity when I was a young boy. I'm
sure.
I'm 47. Let's say this. This means I remembered how it was to have no electricity,
Hmm.
and this is how you get empathy. You can have empathy if you remember how it was without having something.
Absolutely. One of the things that I do when I go speak, especially with children in schools and things, I bring a 5-gallon jerry can and I fill it full of water, and I have those children, kids, even adults, uh, pick it up because what you don't realize we didn't actually talk about is 5 gallons of water is 41 pounds. So now then, I'm not talking about just walking to get the water 4 hour or 4 miles. You're having to carry 41 pounds of water back. Now I can barely get it from the water faucet to the wherever I'm speaking, and these guys, and they carry it on their heads, and that blows my mind as well. It's an amazing culture, and they're amazing people.
And this is why we need to help them.
Yes, it is. It is. And some people think, well, I don't have thousands of dollars to send to,
It's
well,
not about thousands of dollars. It's
yeah, I need a
whatever
thousand
somebody wants.
thousand people to give $5. You know what I'm saying? A thousand people giving $5, I've almost got a water well.
Like 100,000 people, $1.
Absolutely, and we're there. Just give a little. You don't have to give everything. You just have to give what you can. The Bible calls it a widow's mite. In fact, I'll tell you one last story that really tickled. I don't, maybe not be the last one, but I've got a little church that is full of retired individuals. They're just about to close down, but they wanted to do something globally, so they send me $100 every 3 months. Now, they can't even hardly pay their electricity bill, but they specifically want to help do something bigger than themselves. So every 3 months, I get $100. I cherish that check. Almost, it means more to me than a lot of the bigger checks, because I know that it's giving out of their lack that they want to help, and that just means, that just warms my heart. I don't give that sacrificially. I give a lot, but I don't give that sacrificially. And that's what I think it all boils down to, is the sacrifice that it takes.
The problem with different languages is you need personal space in order to discuss, and a lot of, I would say, because I'm Greek, wine, a lot of wine, and a lot of time.
Yeah, lots to think about.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Michael, for your
Thank
time.
you. It's been a
And,
wonderful time. You're a great host.
yeah, you see, the problem is that people don't understand what the problem is in society. And it's not about being just or unjust or whatever. It's about the ego, as I'm always saying, because I believe that I'm pushed on the side. I believe that I can do better. I believe it's not about I, it's about we.
We, very much.
And if we can do something better, I believe this is the best thing that we can, as species, become better as human
Yes.
beings.
Yes, we can.
Thank you
That's
very
why I
much.
have the world behind us.
Exactly. A wooden word.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. You've been a great host.
Thank you very much for everybody. You have seen the whole time that www.amigosii.slash/donate. You can find everything that you want in order to become member of this fantastic team. And now that we
You
are
bet.
finishing, you get your cough. Okay.
I do. I know it. Coffee went down wrong.
Enjoy the rest of your day wherever you are,
Thank you.
or your night. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great day
Bye bye.
or night. Bye.
Yeah. Give me just 1 second, please. How are you?
1001.
How was everything?
Oh, it's great. Are we off?
Yes, you can cough. You can cough.
Oh,
You can cough.
that coffee went down wrong right at the very end. I'm sorry. Oh,
No
it was
worries.
very good. Hope I didn't bore you.
Me? No. Let me explain. I'm younger than you. This means
Mm-hmm.
I need to learn. It's not about being younger. I need to learn about everybody. The thing is, if you would be boring or graphic, I would have said, okay, let's change the subject or whatever. But yeah, I'm being straight.
Good.
but you said exactly what you felt.
Thank
And
you.
you,
Yeah.
no, it's not about thank you. Um, the difference is if you're telling those things 2,000 times a day, 2,000 times a day, it is a poem that you have, yet that you can remember, that you say it.
Yes.
If you feel it, it's a different thing.
Hmm. Yeah.
I hope I didn't get you in any different spot, or
No, no, no. My issue is I get news stories every day and just trying to keep up with all the things that are going on. Just like the lady, the sewing lady that just thanked us for teaching her to sew and measure, and I want to tell every story all the time. I tell too much and get too boggled down in details. So
yeah,
I
but
hope I was.
it's now it's my time telling you that if you the problem is, if you want to make, it's not a business, it's something that you want to help somebody. If you get emotionally involved, it's a problem always.
Mhm.
But it's very difficult to keep it, how's it called, professional.
At arm's
Because
length. Yeah.
yeah, because it is something of that's coming from your heart.
Yeah.
I'm smoking, sorry. And you are
Did I
drinking
tell you
Red
about
Bull.
did did I? No, it's a rain, but yeah, you're right. I shouldn't be doing that. But did I tell you about making good choices? Did I tell you about my book about making good choices, not bad, like
Yeah.
smoking that will kill you? No, I'm joking. I'm teasing.
No, let me explain to you something.
We're not going to talk
Ami-
about bad habits because I've got way more than you do, I'm sure.
I went to, like 15 years ago, I went to my psychologist and I told him I'm smoking 2 packages a day. Then, and he told me, okay, what's the matter? I said, I'm playing soccer, as you are going to
Hmm.
say. Uh,
Yeah.